Hey there everyone, Exelbirth here with another Mod Monday. How you guys doing? Hope you're doing good today. Ignore the fact that there's arrows sticking out of me, I just got done testing something. Now, before we start, I wanted to say that I wasn't intending to do a revisit for Tinker's Construct, that's the name of it. Jeez, I forgot for a moment. I wasn't intending to do a revisit on Tinker's Construct quite yet, but I haven't been able to get mods to work for 1.6 for the past couple weeks, so I decided, you know what, I might as well do this now because there's actually enough stuff to cover. And hopefully next Monday I'll actually be able to put up a different Mod Monday video, a new one. So let's get started. Now, there's been quite a few things that have been added actually, and we'll start out with some machinery that's been added. This here is actually camouflaged. This is a drawbridge block. Now there's actually 3 here, so it's not one block that's 3 blocks long. But what's cool about the drawbridge is that when you give it a redstone signal, it will actually make a bridge out of whatever material you put inside of it. And the reason that looks like a stone brick right now is because I have a stone brick in its camouflage slot. Normally it looks like this, and in order to craft these drawbridges, you need a blank cast, a dispenser, redstone, and some bronze. Then the next thing that's been added is an igniter. Or, not an actually, yeah, it is called an igniter. I thought it was called something different for a moment. Don't know why. But the igniter can be placed in multiple directions, and when you apply a redstone signal, it will create fire in that direction. Now, something that's kind of interesting is that if you try doing that when it's pointing downwards and there's nothing underneath, it'll just keep on trying to ignite a fire and make a rapid clicking sound, which, well, it's doing that because it can't make a fire. Now, an igniter is made using bronze, redstone, flint and steel, and a netherrack large plate. Now, if you're wondering what a large plate is, we'll get to that in a moment, because I don't believe that those were added last time I did Mod Monday for this mod. For now, we're going to talk about this thing. Now, you cannot actually craft this thing, but you can spawn it in. It's a glowstone aggregator, and from my understanding, a glowstone aggregator is what started out the whole equivalent exchange to dirt to diamonds thing, which everyone loved and hated. And for whatever reason, it keeps on spawning these light crystals on top of it. Yes, a light stone crystal. Well, from what I can tell, this does not actually create any light. So I don't know what the point of this is. But since this is a work in progress, well, I can't really say anything about it. Now, what this does is allows you to put cobblestone into here, right? You're supposed to be able to put cobblestone in here and it turns into glowstone. Maybe you need some lightstone to do that. I don't know. I'm just trying to do what I read on the forum that this thing does. So the light level had to be sufficient enough, so stop that. No, shift click. Yep, don't know how this thing is working. Anyway, apparently the forums are wrong. It does not work with a light level of 15. Anyway, there's a new oreberry bush that I have found, and that is an essence oreberry bush. Now, for whatever reason this thing hasn't grown. Perhaps it's not the right conditions. But when it grows, what it gives off, well, what you can harvest from it is concentrated essence berries, and it says it tastes like creeper, so that's kind of strange, but when you right click on it, it gives you experience. So essentially you are able to create an experience farm that actually is a farm. Now, there's another thing that's been added that I think is kind of cool, and that is punji sticks. These things are made out of sugarcane, or reeds, whatever you want to call them, and you can, when you craft them, you get a total of 5. Now, when you place it down, it places 1 down, but you can keep on right-clicking on that spot and place up to 5. Oops, I did not want a brick there. What I do want to do is get a volunteer, quote-unquote, and when enemies land on the punji sticks, they take damage and are given a slowness effect. In fact, the slowness effect is level 2, and it lasts for as long as you're on it, and for about 1 second after you step off. So that's a pretty useful way of defending your base. Have pitfalls or something, or just surround your entire fort in punji sticks. In fact, I'm sure if you surround your fort in punji sticks and just bone meal the ground around, you'll have a pretty concealed area. A nicely concealed defense, so people will just be walking along and, ow, I'm in pain. What happened? So that's kinda cool. Now this next thing, we actually need it to be night. And we'll spawn a zombie on top of this one. This is graveyard soil. And what it does is heals the undead as they're on it. See? He was restored. Now opposite of that is consecrated soil, which does the opposite. Undead that are on it will take damage. However, it doesn't seem to be working quite properly. If I attack them though, they will start taking damage on it. Just a little bit of fire damage, they're burning alive as they walk across holy ground. And it only really seems to be affecting them when they are walking. So it's not a constant take damage as they stand there kind of effect. And a spider just killed itself on my punji sticks. Now, what you need to create these for the graveyard soil is simply bone meal, rotten flesh, and some dirt. So, yay, finally used for rotten flesh. And consecrated soil, which is pretty much just smelting the graveyard soil. Oh yes, and the recipe for the punji sticks, that's not punji sticks, is simply 5 sugarcane, and you get 5. Let's clear out the inventory. Now, on to the next part. Now, I did this setup just to show that the smeltery stuff is compatible with other mod stuff. For example, you can use buildcraft tanks or railcraft tanks to store lava, and just have it constantly feeding lava into your controller. So you don't need to worry about refilling it as often. And something that I don't know if it existed last time is that you can take glass and smelt that down as well. And I'm just going to grab a hopper and attach that to here, because we're going to go ahead and toss in a few other ores. And some stone, because you can smelt stone down to seared brick. Right, so while that's going, and I didn't realize that there was a texture problem with that, that's kind of odd. While that's going, we're going to move to the back, and we're going to flip the switch so that when everything gets melted down, it will just automatically drain into the tanks. Yep, you're able to store all your liquid materials in Buildcraft tanks. and railcraft tanks, and whatever else kind of tanks you have. And that's what liquid glass looks like. Now, the main reason you want to be smelting down the glass into liquid glass is so you can dump it into here and get a new kind of glass block, or into here and marvel at how the glass kind of bugs out the texture. But when that happens, you get clear glass, or clear panes, which is basically glass, but it does not have any lines on it, and the textures all connect. So, a much better way of being able to see through your windows. Wow, that actually made a lot more glass than I thought. So much more glass that it's actually backing up my pipes. I will have to fix that quick. And actually it's just these ones I need to fix. There we go. Now it'll work out better. It won't stay clogged nearly as much. Yeah, that was a lot of glass. So, as you probably noticed, it's going to whatever tank that it needs to go to. That's because all the tanks have the liquid material inside them already. If it didn't have the liquid material inside them, it would try dividing itself between the tanks, and you'd have a small problem of everything mixing and colluding, or going where it's not supposed to. Anyway, moving on. So, before you only had this little dinky tool station which allows you to craft only these selected items, and I'll get to these two in a moment because I'm very happy about these two. Well, you can actually upgrade your tool station into something much more spectacular, a tool forge. This requires you to have blocks of a metal. It can be any kind of metal as long as there's 4 of them, some seared bricks, and a tool station. And that will get you a tool forge. So just take your tool station, upgrade it, and replace it. And now you have much more tools that you can create. And it's raining. Never ceases to do that. It just rains whenever I do a Mod Monday. Anyway, with the tool forge you are now able to create hammers, lumber axes, excavators, scythes, cleavers, battle axes, and your basic tools and weapons. Now all this stuff requires you to craft new items, which I do have all the things in here right now, but we are going to go ahead and grab just some cobblestone and arrowhead pattern, and we're just going to make an arrowhead. Now, in order to make tools out of metal, you have no choice now. I don't remember if you actually had a choice last time, but I'm pretty sure I was able to take a blank cast and use the stencil table to apply a pattern. Not anymore. Now you have to use either gold or aluminum brass, take a existing part, and pour the metal onto it to make a cast of that part. So we're going to actually make a couple new materials. For instance, the bowstring. Now I've actually been asked on one of my Mod Monday videos, or one of my main series videos, how you craft bowstring. Which, because it says a material cost of 3, but it doesn't really say what material. And after a little bit of experimenting, I figured out you just need string. So, pretty simple to do. But there's also enchanted bowstring, and after thinking about it a bit, I realized that it's probably a crossover of another mod. And yes, it was. Enchanted fabric from Thaumcraft. 3 of those and you get an enchanted bowstring. So now you know. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab a few wood rods, because we are going to show the difference between a regular bowstring and an enchanted bowstring. A regular bowstring, it's going to give you basically a regular short bow. However, the enchanted bowstring is going to get you a slightly different one. Not too different, but the draw speed, you see, is 0.89. With a regular bowstring, it's 1. And arrow speed is 1, and on here it's 0.89. Now, it's important to note that a lower draw speed is good because that means you can shoot more rapidly. However, a lower arrow speed is bad because your arrows will go a shorter distance. So it's kind of what do you want your bow to be able to do? Rapid fire or long distance fire? Now, neither of these are really affecting how much damage the bow does, but the bow really doesn't do much damage on its own anyway. What makes the biggest difference is the arrows. Also, I'd like to point out that enchanted bowstring gives you an extra modifier. Now, arrows require you to have a fletching, a rod, and an arrowhead. Now, there's different materials you can use to create fletching. You can use feathers, leaves, or slime. Now, I've had a problem with the slime ones. Essentially, every time I try making a slime fletching, my game crashes. So I do not recommend using slime fletching right now. It seems that there's a bug that's causing some crashing problems, although Feed the Beast Unleashed has updated twice since I've done it. So it might be safe now. But feather fletching you use feathers for, and leaf fletching you use leaves for. And you know what? I'm going to try slime, because I really would like to see if it works. Well, let's see if we crash. Hey, we didn't crash. Awesome. So I can actually make slime fletching. And we're just going to go ahead and spawn in the leaf and the feather. And we're going to grab a couple different rods. We're going to grab an iron one, and a paper one, and a wood one. And we'll grab different arrowheads as well. Because making arrows and bows is actually kind of a fine science. And paper. Now, every part you use will affect the weight of your arrow, which is actually kind of important to pay attention to, because the weight of your arrow will affect how far it can go. And the fletching you use will affect the accuracy. So slime is heavier, but it will give you a better accuracy than leaves, which are the lightest material you can use almost. Actually, leaves are quite a bit heavier. Why would anyone use leaves? They're kind of crap. Well, I guess people would use leaves because they're very abundant. Now, every time you make a recipe, it gives you 4 arrows. So that's always good to know. Now, the rods will affect the weight. And paper is, by default, a little bit less accurate than everything else. So keep that in mind. The arrowheads will affect how much weight it has and how much damage it does. So paper, it's kind of garbage. However, paper does allow you to give your arrows themselves a significant amount of modifiers. So you can have super special arrows that do amazing damage, but are kind of not very good at hitting their target. See, we're going to make kind of a basic arrow set. You know, flint, a wooden stick, and some feathers. And we're going to make a heavier arrow set. Alright. So the regular arrows do 2.5 to 5. They're pretty accurate, at 96%, and they weigh 1.26. The heavier arrows do 3 hearts of damage on their own, 3 to 6 with the short bow, and weigh nearly 10 pounds each. But yes, the arrows actually do have their own base attack damage for when you use them as a melee weapon. So if I wanted to, I could just go around and attack things with arrows. It'd be kind of foolish, but you can do that. So, let's see, what else was there I was going to do? Actually, there's nothing else I'm going to do right now, because we're going to go and check out the new tools. We're going to be coming back here, though, and creating a new weapon for myself. Because there's different materials you can use to modify your weapons that are kind of good to just cover. And we're going to have to hop out of creative mode. Now the first tool is the lumber axe. There it is. Now the lumber axe has 2 different abilities it can do. If you're just chopping through wood, it'll blow a 3x3 hole in the wood. However, if you are chopping at a tree, it will take down the entire tree. Now, the way it defines a tree is whether or not it has leaves on top of a stack of wood. And I don't want any more mobs to be spawning right now, so we're going to make sure it doesn't get nighttime. Clear some of this garbage out. You know, actually I'm going to make one more set of arrows. We're going to make some paper. That's not the station. There, the most inaccurate but lightweight arrows I can make. And the reason I'm doing that is because of where we're at. We're going to test out some different bows. Now I have 3 different bows here. Manulin, which is basically a completely metal bow, a bone bow, which is kind of like an average bow, and a stone bow. And we're going to put these in here, although we will keep the regular arrows. And for this we are going to be in creative because I don't want to use up my arrows. So, let's go with the most average bow right now, the short bow, made of bone. The draw speed, you can see, is pretty much like normal. And the arrow flies pretty much average. The Manulin, however, takes longer to get to full draw, but the arrow is actually able to get a little bit farther. You can't really tell much from here, so we're going to hop over here to do a distance comparison. That's the bone bow. That's the Manulin bow. As you can see, the Manulin bow went much farther. Although one of my arrows disappeared now. Oh, there they are. So that's the Manulin, that's the regular. And now the stone bow. Now this one is probably going to be a little bit comical. As you can see, the draw speed is actually extremely fast. However, that's all the further I can get it to shoot without aiming way up in the air. And even then, it's not that far. So, lesson from this, don't make your bows out of stone. There we go. So, let's go ahead and use my regular short bow. My enchanted one. And we're going to take a look at the accuracy of these different arrows after we clear out all this stuff. There we go. So, basic wooden short bow with fairly basic arrows, just flint, feather, and wood. It's able to get the same spot pretty much every time. If, however, we use the much heavier Manulin and iron bow arrows, they get a much shorter range. They drop a lot faster. So to get about the same distance, you have to actually aim a little bit higher. The accuracy, however, is still pretty good. Now, with these ones, you can see that there's a little bit more variation in where they end up. Not too significant amount. Oops, sorry about that. My phone should have been on vibrate. Stupid thing, I need to get it replaced. It's not too huge a difference. However, over a long distance, the variation in the accuracy will come into effect. But enough about bows. We're moving on to the next thing, which is actually going to be quite fun. We're going to use the scythe. Just dump a bunch of garbage in here. A Manulin scythe. Now, you can block with the scythe, which is awesome, because you can use it as a weapon too. Now I have a redstone clock here, which is from a different mod entirely, but it's useful for this little setup. Quiet clock. Now the Manulin scythe is able to attack in a 3 wide area, meaning I can attack multiple mobs at once, which is pretty awesome. And it also has the ability to harvest in a large area. It'll harvest a 3x3 area. Pretty cool. Next up we have a cleaver. Now I don't have a mob set up in here yet, but that's right, because we can just spawn a zombie in. Now the cleaver attacks way slower. However, as you can see, it does a huge amount of damage. And it also has a special ability where you have a chance of getting the head of the mob you killed, like that. I now have a zombie head. And then we're going to switch back to survival mode to get the excavator. The excavator does what it says it does. It excavates. Specifically, it will dig a 3x3 hole in material that is able to be dug with a regular shovel. And it works sideways as well. It will not do anything to non-shovel material. Then, next thing we have is a hammer. The hammer is essentially the pickaxe version of the excavator. It'll pound its way into a 3x3 area and is able to do some mining as well. It will not do anything to non-pick materials. It also will not do anything to materials that are above its level. And last we have the battle axe. Now the battle axe is actually able to chop wood down as well. Apparently higher than it says. It says on the thing it will harvest wood up to a height of 7. That just did a height of 8. Here, let's test this out. That's now a height of 9. It still did that, yeah. So the book is a little bit wrong on the battle axe. Now the battle axe also has a right-click ability, similar to the longsword. You will do a little jump thing and you will get a small boost, but your hunger will deplete during this period of time. Let's activate it again, and we have hunger for a few seconds, speed, strength, and jump boost for 10. So you're able to do a pretty good amount of damage. It's basically like going berserk. Alright. Enough of that, though. We are going to make myself a new scythe. Because I love the scythe and its ability to just destroy an entire area of creatures. So let's take a look at what we need for that. To make a scythe, we need a scythe head, 2 tool rods, and some heavy binding. So, let's get some tough tool rods. I'm pretty sure it's tough tool rods, not just regular tool rods. And a scythe head. So the scythe head I'm going to make out of Manulin, of course. Wait, do I not have Manulin? I don't think I actually put a thing up for Manulin. That's kind of embarrassing. Oh well, I'll use Cobalt then. And we will get 1 Alamite rod. And for the binding, we will use some good old iron. And for another rod, we will use Ardite. Actually, we should be using a completely different material. But you know what? It doesn't matter. And it's going to be nighttime. So, open up the scythe. Let's see. Does switching these around do anything? Not a thing at all. But the durability, as you can see, is really high. Modifiers, well, it's only 3, but who cares? We're going to call this the Grim Harvest, because I feel like it. Now, these are the different materials that you can use. This technically isn't new, I just didn't get to cover it last time because, well, I didn't have Industrial Craft installed at all. Do you mind? So you can add pistons, obsidian large plates, obsidian and ender pearls, fermented spider eyes, consecrated soil, and RE battery, which I just gained to cover for the first time. So let's go with the pistons first. As you can see, there's now a piston on here, and it's giving me the knockback ability. We're just going to go ahead and get myself up to level 10 of that. Next, obsidian large plates. This will give you a reinforced attribute, which basically will increase your reinforced attribute if you already have one, or give you a new one. But I'm not interested in making this thing reinforced. I am, however, interested in giving this thing a beheading ability. This will allow me to collect the heads of creatures that I have slain. And you can increase the beheading ability multiple times, giving you a better chance, but we're not going to do that. Now, next we're going to give this some smiting abilities. And it will give you this weird looking attachment, which isn't that bad. In some weapons it looks a little bit goofy, but for the most part I enjoy it. And now we've run out of modifier slots, but that's okay because we have the ability to increase the modifier amount depending on how much stuff we add. Diamond and gold, get another one. Nether star, get another one. Next we'll add some fermented spider eyes, which will give you anti-spider slaying abilities. Essentially Bane of Arthropods for free. And then... Nope, you can't do it with this one. That's too bad. You probably can, however, do it with this one. Or maybe you need an empty battery. Let's grab an empty one just to make sure. Nope, just can't add it to that. Alright. It's perfectly fine. I do want to show it off though, so we're going to grab a couple things to make a pickaxe. Steel, that one, that one. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Or perhaps it can't be used with anything that has the reinforced ability. I'll have to try it on something that doesn't have that, because this isn't working the way it's supposed to. Where's the book? Flip over to the modifiers. Oops. Oh, that's what my problem was. I forgot the circuit. I am a fool, and I am terribly sorry about that. I have wasted your time just a little bit. There we go. Now it is an electric tool. And it completely requires you just charging it up. And honestly, this looks like one mess of a weapon. I mean, look at that. It's just cluttered now. However, it's for a good cause. As you can see, the knockback is actually quite powerful, which is entertaining to an extent. On spiders and the undead, this thing will do significantly more damage. Let's set it to midnight and see if any spawn nearby. There's a group of skeletons, which will die very swiftly. See, it does up to 7 damage now. I managed to collect a creeper head, so the beheading part works. Last thing to test it on is the spider. Halfway kills the spider in one hit. And that's it. That's all that there is added to this mod now. Oh yes, there was one more thing I forgot last mod, and that was how to make the brownstone. Apparently in order to make brownstone, you simply need to dump some gravel into a container, which we happen to have some, into one of these, and this is molten seared brick. You can dump that onto it. No. Flip over to it. I remember hearing how to do this, I just don't remember how to do it myself. Tin. It's tin you need, not what I was thinking. So that and tin, and you get in exchange some brownstone, which you are able to run fast on. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this this revisit to the Tinker's Construct. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and fave. I will see you next time. Take care, and goodbye.